And we're
Coming to you from beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia,
in Tamarindo, Costa Rica.
We are the Extremely Conscious Journey with Mike and Trev.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I took my echo cancellation off there. I was hoping it was going to go have that nice echo effect. Didn't work.
Yeah.
All right.
We almost got our templated intro, but no, we messed it up again. What are you
Then we forgot we didn't create a template. So
everything's original. Just roll with it. So hey, real quick before we start, man, are you wearing the same shirt? Like, how many days in a row are you going to keep wearing that shirt?
I knew this was going to come up. I knew this was... Nobody else knows these were recorded days back to back. But if you really need to know, I had another important conversation this morning that was beautiful, and I wanted to be geared up for it. So this is getting a day 2 wear today, and we are spreading the conscious creator vibes on multiple platforms.
Yes, sir. And you probably have multiple versions of that same shirt anyways, right? As well as many other inspiring
I do. And
sayings.
yes, that's what I would like people to believe, that I put on another of the 12 from my closet.
Yeah, but it is in fact the same shirt. All right. It's all good. It's all good. At least it wasn't your underwear, man. It's all good. T-shirts are okay.
For another conversation. Yes.
For another conversation. Speaking of conversations, this is the topic of choice here today. So if anybody's just joining us for the first time on these series of conversations that we've had, we've been telling the story, the Extremely Conscious Man's story to date, which is basically just the journey, just recapping what brought us to this place where we now have this inner circle, this retreat coming up in Costa Rica at the end of April. And conversations are a huge part of what makes an extremely conscious man. And not just conversations, but vulnerable, honest, real conversations, raw conversations. And that was one of the things that we leaned into when we finally kind of exited the summer and the craziness and moved to Costa Rica and transitioning into the fall and stuff. And we were thinking, what do we do to start building community here? How do we get people engaged in what we have going on? And yeah, conversations became the topic that we started to lean into.
Yeah, it unfolded exactly as we expected. We had some beautiful ones, but I would love to hear, Trev, how did you come up? Because we had a name for these conversations in the fall. We talked about ideas behind what we wanted these conversations to contain based on some of the magic we'd seen in our retreat. But how did you come up with the name for these conversations?
Well, the marketing brain turned on naturally, and I thought to myself, what is the desired outcome that every single person wants? And it is to live their best life. It is to have it all, insert cliche here of desired outcome or destination. But at the end of the day, you and I aligned on the thought that, okay, well, how do we get these things in life? We all want these things. What do we need to do? And we started breaking it down to the very core fundamentals, which was just speaking it out loud, number one. So being, intentional about your desire to be better, a better version of yourself every single day with every decision that you make, and knowing full well that we don't always make good decisions. Sometimes we eat the wrong food. Sometimes we have an extra drink. Sometimes we get a little short with the kids or the coworkers or the wife or whoever it is. But knowing that the extremely conscious man and the whole concept around what we had co-created till now was about really at its foundation, just being more consciously aware and being a little bit better every single day. So we called these the Betterman gatherings. And we started doing them, I want to say around the end of October, early November. I actually didn't look back to see, but I'm pretty sure.
October 26th was our first one, and I know that because I was traveling for work, and I was in Winnipeg, and I remember our first one, me multitasking before, ripping back to the hotel room, having a cold shower because I was exhausted, and I'd done something that morning, but I needed to pep up. And then it was it was that evening that we gathered our first probably 8 or so guys. And Trump highlighted it there, but the concept really was to gather a group of men and try to create almost like a mini recreation of some of the conversations we had at our retreat. right? But in these snapshot groups, and to allow people to feel how special that can be and how important that is for us to have a safe space where we can arrive and have real conversations about whatever is, alive and real for us in that moment, whether it is a challenge with a friend, a family member, whether it is financial crisis, whether it is a win and we're on a peak, when we're proud of something. But it was to create that safe space where we could all come talk about it without any judgment, without any coaching. Just speak it out loud and see that we can be supported.
Yeah, and the magical part about these that I remember too, and we will go back to these as well. We're just in the season right now of really preparing for the retreat in Costa Rica and everything that's involved in that. But those betterman gatherings were just so uplifting for both of us. But then every single person that showed up to these, one, they didn't have a clue who else was going to be on that call. That was one of the things. You and I aligned on the fact that we would put 6 guys into a Zoom call. You didn't know who was going to be there. You didn't really have a lot of context to what we were even going to talk about because we didn't set an agenda. It was just meant to be what you just described. But the conversations were really magical, and there was some elements to it that you just couldn't have planned. Like I remember one of them, a few of them where there were 6 guys there, and every single one of those guys were dads to girls or dads to boys, or they were all entrepreneurs, or they were all former athletes, or whatever the case might be. And we didn't plan for that. We gave them a choice of the date that they could choose, and they said, I'll come on Friday. And then they'd show up, and boom, all of a sudden...
These incredible synchronicities were happening, and we would watch it unfold.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I apologize. That's right. I said 8 to 10, but we always capped them at 6 people. So us included, it was always 8 people. But we did that on purpose so that we had that smaller space and feel to it all. But as you said, they unfolded every single time exactly as it was supposed to. And we would receive private messages afterwards just saying like how powerful that was. And there was no design to it other than we mentioned, right? Of showing up in that space and leading from the front.
Yeah, and when we think about the word extreme, and we have this all over our website, and you and I talk about this all the time, but as guys and just anybody in general, I guess you could say, you hear the word extreme and you think extreme sports, strapping on a jetpack to your feet and flying up in the air like this guy that's on the screen with me here, or jumping out of a plane, or scaling a rock wall or a mountain wall, that type of thing. But what about extreme vulnerability? What about extreme honesty? What about extreme love? All of those things. And that was what we created with those calls. And the way that these guys showed up really, I think, opened our eyes too, because we just, again, it was another thing that we just thought, this feels right. Let's go do this. We had no idea how it was going to pan out. But then immediately after those calls were done, when we were receiving all of that amazing feedback, I think one of the things that you and I learned exiting our first retreat was that, okay, we got to create a space for all of these guys to connect beyond just this 90-minute call. Yeah. And that, of course, is what birthed the community that we created. Maybe talk about that and how that's evolved as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So we, as Trev said, we had these peak conversations, but then it was again, we got to that point of now what? And so we landed on, we need a forum for a group, and Facebook was the easiest place to do that, but we created this amazing community called the Betterman community. And what we did in that was we introduced everybody. We started to introduce them and say, they've been through one of these calls. So there was already that bridge built and that comfort to know, okay, these guys stepped into the ring and they led vulnerably with one piece of their truth or their story. And then we put some micro actions behind those, some supportive pieces for them to choose to really, again, with the desire to just be a little bit better every day in whatever category they connected with. So, we put all these resources and asked them to jump in, drop a live, introduce themselves and piece of their journey, and, choose some micro actions and be consistent with them, so that we can show up a little bit better every day and support each other on our journey. And, so within the group, we created themes of gratefulness, of truth, and then of wisdom, and then some others to just keep the conversations going. And that's, I mean, grown. By the end of those calls, we were at 45 members or something like that. And now we don't actively invite anybody in, but now through, friends, it's not taken over the world, but it's 70, 80 members or something like that. And it's people that are committed to wanting to be better. And so that's where it's pretty incredible, because we started this with a thought, an idea, and now we have these men stepping forward, and the conversations are happening every single day. I just had some beautiful ones. My wife has a salon in our house here, and I can tell you, these ladies that arrive when they hear what we are doing are always trying to push their men forward. And it was another one today, somebody actually that had been on one of our calls and then kind of disappeared. And she said, yeah, he's been there, and I would love for him to go to the retreat. But of course, there's resistance from himself. It's always our partners want us to step into this light. They want us to embrace and be accountable for where we're at. But it's us who looks at it and says, well, it's, we have this coming up. We want to save for this. If I spend that, I'm going to do this. Or we don't have the time. It's almost summer. We got to do it. And, the truth is we can expand all of that, and we want to step forward for our partners. But anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent on that. But some good combos today as well.
No, and you touched on a good point there, though, too, and even how we evolve things over time, too, because we went pretty heavy there with betterman gatherings. I think we were doing 3 a week for at least 2 months. And naturally, we looked at that and thought, like, I don't think this is sustainable for me and you to do this all the time. But, maybe once a quarter or once or twice a year type thing, we open the space up, and that becomes kind of the entry point of, hey, we just opened a door. Anybody want to come in? And as soon as a person puts a foot in, now they have a decision. Do they want to step in the door, or do they want to just close it and say, well, that was great, but I don't know if I want to actually commit that much to turning my good intentions into actual committed, focused action to be better every single day.
Yes.
Because that's what it ultimately takes. We can't push anybody into this space, and it's different for everyone too. There's no one size fits all. We're seeing that even in the inner circle. We set some foundational micro actions, just like we provide to everybody that joins the betterman community. We give them some guidelines and say, hey, how about you start with setting your alarm and getting up as soon as that thing goes off, or what about not using your phone for an hour before you go bed? Like, we're talking tiny, tiny little changes that can make a huge, huge difference, especially when you start stacking them and turning them into ways of being. So we've seen the magic of this. This isn't theory. This isn't, oh yeah, that sounds good, but I don't got time for that. Well, that's a choice too. If you choose to step into the ring and actually show up for yourself, you would see what this can actually create in your life. And that's why these women, the wives and the girlfriends, are desiring their partners to get into this space, to do the work, to stop talking about it and actually show up.
Yep. Yeah, I can tell you, money is not the factor, because I will tell you, even if you had the money and you're saving it for something else, I'll tell you, any of these women that we're speaking with that are speaking it out loud would want you to take out a loan before they even say don't go, because that's how important the work is. Because we know it's a big picture thing, and that's not what it takes to come to one of these experiences by any means. I'm just taking it to that stretch because, that's how important this stuff is to our partners. It truly is, because we're changing our ways of being. And, that is priceless, because when we speak to, I was talking to somebody else today on somebody who's in the inner circle and talking about the max changes they're making in their life, and how actually one wife called the other, and they're like, yes, he is really making changes. It's incredible to see. They were, and this is another one that's teetering and coming, and so it's very interesting to see the dynamics. But I can tell you that, oh man, it's just challenging to see the resistance that we as men put up and the barriers that we create ourselves, because that's truly what they are, is they're just stories that we're creating for a reason to not step forward courageously and vulnerably, because we have to open up and we have to be accountable for where we are. And that's not easy for everybody to do, to take accountability, to say, I am here today in this scenario because of every choice I've made.
Yep, own the truth. Have the intention to shift, create behaviors that align with that, put in daily practice, create habits, stack wins, and become the version of yourself that you already are as soon as you actually step into it and believe it and act like it.
Yeah.
And all it takes is just a decision, and then you got to show up. And I was going to say this too. I was kind of lost for thoughts there, but there was one important point I wanted to make here too, which is it doesn't have to be hard either. Like the things that we're doing in the inner circle right now, just so everybody knows, they're really simple. And as guys, and Mike and I can both attest to this because this was us before we actually started doing this too. We'd look at breath work and go, can't be that simple. Like, I can't possibly have access to this tool that would allow me to regulate myself so that when my kid is busting in on me when I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm in a heated discussion with my wife, that I have the ability to actually regulate myself and bring myself down to a neutral space, to detach from expectation, and that it's completely free. It can't be that easy. We want to complicate things. This is what we do as driven men. We think that we need to push and we need to grind and we need to, and we do overcomplicate. But we're both here saying, it doesn't have to be like that.
No, our logical minds kick in and they want to know the science behind every single thing before we take the step, instead of just taking the plunge. And that's why, I know another piece to this puzzle, and I know a lot of the resistance to the work that we're doing is a lot of the words we're using. Like surrender, like slow down. These aren't words that entrepreneurs are used to. I'm not just going to trust that this is going to happen. How am I going to slow down and get more done? These words don't connect until you're actually in it and until you actually embrace it and do it. And we come from that world, so we can attest to, we were just as thrown off when these were first introduced to us and before we started to do the work, because they were foreign terms altogether, never mind taking the framework and all this structure that we're used to, and these Excel sheets and all of this stuff that has served us in the past, but burnt us out, mind you, and completely breaking that mold and saying, wait, no, do all these human things, and this will produce this. And so there's a disconnect there, and there is a big trust piece and faith, and those alone are some words that make people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And you and I, speaking of that, we started creating some just graphics that we could share online to be able to get people's attention, because we know that the first step of this entire journey is for somebody to just take notice of something and go, oh, that lands. And in some cases, it's like, that sounds exciting. Retreat, Costa Rica, jumping off of waterfalls, amazing. In other cases, it's like the one quote that I created today, which is, your wife wants you to show up, period. And now naturally, you could take offense to that and go like, whoa, what do you mean? Like, I'm showing up every day. I'm putting in the hours. I'm providing for my family. I protect my family. Like, I am showing up. But that's, again, you're attaching to the story that says that, well, are you not showing up? Why are you getting offended if somebody's saying you need to show up? And then naturally, it's a play on words to say, hey, show up to this retreat that we've created, because this is the foundation for why we've created it. It's not going to completely change everything in your life. When you walk away from that retreat in Costa Rica, you're still going back into the same world with the same job or the same business and the same family and everything around you. Nothing will change, but you will. And how you approach every single one of those things and what you prioritize in life. And then, of course, one of the major hacks is that you now have a whole bunch of people that you are connected to on a level that you just couldn't have created unless you were in the experience with other people. And that's why the retreat exists, because we were craving it. We just wanted to go co-create with some awesome human beings that wanted to show up every single day.
Well, then you're walking away with many more tools in your toolbox, and then the other piece is that definition that you have for your partner or for your kids or for your role that you play at work of showing up, that changes too, because previously showing up for our family might mean that we work our asses off, we pay the bills, we buy nice things, we take them on vacations. When you reframe that and you reprioritize things and you truly look at what matters, showing up changes. That means I'm actually present. It means I actually, shut my phone off at certain interactions with my family. That means I prioritize certain family events over X. So that whole, definition changes in itself as well.
Or I don't skip the gym even on the mornings that I don't feel like going, or when, like we said earlier, when the alarm goes off, you get up, even when you don't want to.
Showing up for yourself first.
And the truth is, too, is that if you want the science to back it up, it exists now, too. People are doing the research on this to show that all the things that you thought were too simple and easy and not possibly true, there's proof now that says, no, you can slow down and speed up in life. You can truly expand time. All of these things exist. You just got to believe it and then remove the blinders and get around other people that go, no, man, it does. It does. Trust. And now let's go. Let's move in that direction. So, all right, dude. Well, let's wrap on that one. This is a good session today.
Yeah, that flew by. But we do want to always keep to our time, which is, we try to do between 15 and 20-ish minutes to keep it succinct. But guys, before we go, we talked about this beautiful retreat, of course, that we have next month, April 24th to 28th in Costa Rica. We have some incredible facilitators locked in, and those are all been updated on extremelyconscious.com. And you can check it all out there, or reach out to Trev and I anytime with questions, feedback, any of that stuff. Follow along for future episodes of this as well, because we have some of our inner circle members as well that are hitting our podcast channel, which they're just epic humans.
And we're getting really close to current day timeline here now too. So I'm not even sure what we'll talk about on the next one, but I'm sure probably about that inner circle and how it all came to be, and even some of the resistance and challenges that you and I ran into creating that as well. I think people would be interested in hearing the truth when it comes to
absolutely
creating your tribe instead of sitting back and wishing that it exists. So,
yep.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Tons of love, brother.
As always.